Good morning, welcome back to United TV. Today we're going to be talking about a story which has suddenly become quite rapidly developed with Joao Gomez. It looks like suddenly Manchester United were looking at Joao Gomez. This is something just to go back. This is probably from late last night where Ben Jacobs was saying Atletico Madrid approved talks with Wolves for Joao Gomez. The price was supposed to be around about 40 million. We discussed Joao Gomez as being a good option for Manchester United, good player. The price actually seemed to be quite low as well. But there has been like some significant developments in the Joe Gomez situation, which is maybe going to push the price up a bit. So we thought 35 to 40 million might be enough. Graham Bailey this morning reporting on this, saying that there's serious talks with Atletico Madrid, looking to try and get this deal done. This is what we thought so far. In terms of this, also there's an agreement with Edison as well. So Atletico Madrid looking at a couple of targets to try and get done. But we know they're trying to replace the few players that left last season. But this is probably the breaking news, and this is what pushes the price up. That Leeds United are now suddenly leading the race. They're going to make a potential club record-breaking £50 million offer. So any sort of thoughts of getting Joe Gomez for the 35, 40 million price point, I think are going to go completely out the window. If Leeds are going to go for 50 million, suddenly this starts pushing up the price. I don't know actually. I don't know if this changes people's opinion on Joe Gomez. If you're watching now and you can get into the live comments, let me know what you think about the Joe Gomez situation. But it's going to be suddenly put into the price bracket of maybe someone like Alex Scott. It's probably going to be starting to get to the sort of price where people think that it might have been where United, the initial bid for Carlos Bliber might be priced at about 50 million as well. But I think that's going to have to be 60 plus. But this is suddenly going to put this into a situation where this is now the same price as Angela Still is believed to go for. So does this make you change your opinion on whether Manchester United should go for João Gomez? Or do you think that if you wanted him at 40 million, is 10 million
Go for
pounds
Joao
going to
Gomez.
make much difference to how much you value him in terms of an option? Because he was definitely there as an option where people thought you could get him for quite a good price. Like when it was 35 million, for example, we looked at it and thought 35 million, you can look at a player that's going to cost like 50, 60 million, and you get them both for under 100 million. And suddenly, if you're looking at buying three midfielders, it definitely put it into a situation where I thought that this is good value. This is a very good deal. Even like 40 million pounds, good deal. Does 50 million pounds change your view? We will probably do a live poll during the stream as well to see what people think. But 50 million pounds, suddenly it's in a bit of a different price category. But it looks like the fact that Wolves are being relegated does not mean that the price is going to be very cheap. It's still going to be quite expensive. So 50 million pounds isn't the same sort of deal we thought maybe a week ago, and it does start becoming. I don't think it's going to go much up more than that. I wouldn't have thought we're going to see suddenly like an escalation of the price from 50. But if Leeds are looking at paying about 50, I think that kind of defines the market. It probably, if I was looking at the situation, I think this might rule out Atletico Madrid. Like Atletico Madrid are in a negotiation with Atalanta to try and get a better deal for Edison. So even though Atletico Madrid, I don't think they're particularly a poor team. I think they've got some money. I think they might be looking at some midfield targets, but I think they're going to be ruled out of this one. Like when the price starts becoming 50 million, I think they were looking at trying to get a deal comparable to maybe the Edison price of maybe about 35, maybe 40 million. And I think 40 million pounds, lots of teams are interested. 50, it's a different story, isn't it? I think he's going to be definitely on Manchester United's radar, but I think when you start becoming 50, possibly not. So let's go through a few of the comments and see. So welcome Kazi, welcome Jim, welcome Den and Mark to the chat as well. So let me know what your thoughts are on this one. And Den says he's not worth 50 million. This is the one thing that's interesting about this is potentially like the two deals I've seen that look like there's going to be actually a bit of movement in terms of like an official bid coming in seems to be no Joe Gomez, but before it was going to be Alex Scott. Alex Scott yesterday, Manchester United apparently, we'll have to see if this actually does happen, but Manchester United apparently going to make a bid for Alex Scott of about, I think we think about 50 million. If that happens, then that's going to be two players being potentially bid about 50 million pounds. is that going to start setting the trend for the market? I think £50 million seems to be at the moment probably about the cheapest deal you're going to get. So I don't think there's going to be a cheaper option. I think unless you go for someone like Hayden Hackney, I think that's probably the cheapest. And if West Ham get relegated, I think you could be getting a cheaper deal there. But just to show, this is the one where we don't know exactly if this has happened yet, but apparently, major journalists and a couple of national newspapers in the UK pretty much saying yesterday and the day before that bid is going to go in, and I think Manchester United value Alex Scott at about £50 million. The question, I suppose, is: do you think that Joao Gomez should cost the same amount of money? Like £50 million seems like it's not a cheap fee, but it's cheaper than Alanga. It's cheaper than Gittins. It's £10 million more than Garnacho, who's been pretty ineffective. So I don't know. Maybe we're actually looking at a situation where if Anderson does really go for over 100, are we looking at a situation where there's some of these players do end up being like 50 to £60 million? Is Alex Scott going to go for 55, 60? And are we going to see like Belieber costing a little bit more than that? Are we going to see some actually crazy money going? So again, this is so early in the market, it's difficult to actually see whether this is a cheap deal or whether it's still actually pretty expensive. It seems pretty expensive, and I think at this point, it's in a couple of months' time, it might seem like a good deal, wouldn't it? So, Mark said we could have signed Gomez in January for say say 52. I think was it like 32 or 42? I think it was lower. It was definitely lower. I thought maybe 40, 35 to 40, but it says there's no chance we're going to pay more than 40. I don't think we are going to pay more than 40. I was just thinking that based on the news story now, Leeds are clearly in pole position. The fact they actually identify this player, there was a no, there are players at Leeds linked with exits as well. So maybe Leeds are trying to get in quite quickly. But I think United have got a few targets already that they probably think like £50 million is going to be like Alex Scott. £50 million might be getting them Angela Stiller. And I think that if they're looking at Gomez, we thought Gomez would be 40. And we think if you start going above that, it's going to make it a bit more tricky, isn't it? I mean, I think for this one, it's kind of borderline, isn't it? Like, if Alex Scott ended up costing 60, you say Gomez 50, maybe okay. But it's actually, not the easiest decision. Kazi says like 25, 30 at best. I don't think you're going to get anything for 25, 30. I think in modern football, 25 to 30 million is probably buying you players from the championship at the moment. Like good players in the championship are probably going to cost you 25 to 30. I don't think there's going to be much moving in the market unless you're looking at very young prospects, like say like Delap last season, Mane at Wolves this season. I think maybe £30 million might get you those players. But I think when you start looking at midfield players that have the experience, it's going to be really difficult, isn't it? Like very difficult to try and get these deals done. So we need Asian Casemiro to have a word with Gomez. I suppose for this one that with Gomez, that if Leeds offer him Premier League football at a team that wasn't really like Leeds weren't really in a deep relegation fight this season, so you'd imagine that with a bit of investment, they might be okay next season as well. I think it's a tempting offer for Gomez because what other options has he got at the moment? Manchester United might well be interested, but if Gomez says no to Leeds, then Manchester United might not come knocking. I'm not sure Gomez is going to be like number one, two, or three on our wish list. I think Gomez might be considered more of a backup option. Like if we're looking at Belieber, we're looking at Alex Scott and Angela Stiller as maybe the favourites. I think if Gomez got an offer from Leeds, I think he should probably take it because I don't know if Man United would actually make that offer. That's what I'm thinking. But otherwise, yeah, it does make me think that in terms of like the transfer shortlist, this could be one player off the table quite quickly, and we could be talking about reduced options fairly fast if that happens. And so niche fan says Belieber Gomez. I knew it. The too many Anderson news was never going to happen. Do you think do people watching think Man United are going to suddenly go right? We want to get so if United match Leeds' offer, there's no way Joe Gomez is going to turn down Manchester United. So I don't think that's going to happen. Welcome to the chat, Niall. Niche fan says here's going to be 50, and we will pay it. We have to get too many. And do you think the difference is going to be like too many at the moment? he doesn't know if he's going to leave Real Madrid. He doesn't know if he's going to accept an offer if Manchester United try and sign him. He's got a big offer from Real Madrid on the table. I don't know if too many is going to leave Real Madrid. That's the problem. And I think Manchester United do not know if too many or Elliot Anderson would choose them over other options. I mean, too many, Real Madrid want to keep him. He's got a contract offer there. That's going to make it very difficult. Anderson looks like I think he's got a 5 year offer from Manchester City at about 200K a week. That's what people think. And it's going to be difficult for him to turn down that. And with United, that maybe Gomez is like fourth choice, and maybe like the first choice is off the table, and maybe we're looking at trying to get options two, three, and four. Maybe that's the case. But I was just thinking, if United want this player, they need to act quite quickly. And the question is going to be, should United go for this player? Like, do you think that there's three midfield players that are obtainable that are significantly better? Like, should they go right? No, actually, we're going to try and get Alex Scott plus Belieber plus Stiller. Is that going to be the option? Because I think there's four players there that you could get three of them. It would be, you could get these players for under 200 million. I just think United are actually that it's not going to be like a Frankie Jong situation. I don't think Manchester United are going to be waiting around to see if too many, to see if Elliot Anderson want to join. I think they're going to start already and look at trying to sign a couple of players to get the ball rolling. That should be what they're looking at trying to do. As Noel said as well, if you're new to the channel, please share the stream if you can. Please also drop a like on the video. But importantly, yeah, 50 million is Leeds' record-breaking offer. I know it seems like quite amusing, and 50 million is like a squad player for Man United, but Leeds United were in the Championship for, I'm trying to think how long, was it like 2 decades? Must have been about 20 years Leeds were in the Championship for. So I think when you're in the Championship, of course, you're not going to spend that much money. Leeds don't have the resources Manchester United do. Manchester United could potentially offer less than Leeds, and Joe Gomez would still prefer Manchester United. So this isn't something that United have to. I don't think we necessarily have to outbid Leeds. So if we're looking at this in a crazy situation, we could have a Benjamin Sesko type situation where Manchester United could potentially offer less money than Leeds, but they have got a more desirable club to go to. So that could be a factor. Do you remember Benjamin Sesko and how much Newcastle fans were so angry that he turned down a bigger contract offer. And the Leipzig were powerless really to do much about it. But if Manchester United want Joe Gomez, I don't think they necessarily have to pay 51 million or 50 million. So there is that factor as well. If Joe Gomez does not want to go to Leeds, he's not going to go there. So it doesn't. The fact that Leeds are going to pay 50 million pounds, I think it rules out Real Madrid. Sorry, rules out Atletico. I don't think it's going to be a factor with whether Manchester United had to pay more. So this would be interesting, wouldn't it? So Debassis is saying we should put in a 51 million pounds offer, just for fun. I think if United are against Leeds and against Atletico, I think we can get the deal done. But it depends who else is interested. Omar is saying you think Liverpool want him. I've seen Liverpool linked a lot with Wharton, but you think with Liverpool, like Szoboszlai, they've got a few good midfielders as well. I'm trying to think who else they've got. They just got Verts. I could see Liverpool looking for some backup options, but I think United at the moment, if we were looking to sign him first, it might be considered a good move for him because, well, if he goes to Leeds, he's going to get regular first team football. If he goes to Manchester United or Liverpool, he's potentially going to be starting like a decent amount of games, certainly for Man United. But there is probably most expectation that if we sign three midfield players, I don't think João Gomez is going to be walking into the team. He's going to be definitely there to battle with other people. If we're looking at signing, maybe say Alex Scott, you think he's got a decent chance because Alex Scott's quite young as well. But if United got Tonali, or United got too many, or if United got, trying to think who else they're looking at, Angela Stiller, I think these a bit more experienced players, they're probably going to be making it difficult for João Gomez. I still think Kobe Manu is probably expected to be starting most matches next season. So that's kind of my expectation. I mean, it is actually kind of difficult to predict, isn't it? That if this is the first signing, and I think yesterday I said, what if Belieber's the first signing? Because Manchester United has still agreed terms. What if Alex Scott is the first signing? I think these are not going to be the most expensive signings Manchester United makes this summer. So the fact that they're signed first doesn't mean it's priority. it kind of just pushes things to the fore, doesn't it? That the fact that Leeds are getting involved a bit quicker, and Atletico have been, yeah, Atletico are actually quite slow in transfers anyway, so they've been like dragging their feet a little bit regarding this one. But let me know in the comments what your thoughts are in terms of like how you would rate the players we're linked to as well, because I think if you think there's like four options better than João Gomez, Manchester United may as well actually just go somewhere else, look somewhere else. And the question I asked yesterday was if Manchester United were going to make an offer now for one midfielder, so it kind of helps a little bit that potentially the price is quite similar. If you're going to go for one midfielder now and say, look, let's submit a bid, let's get the ball rolling, try and get one player through the door, who would you go for? You got probably Alex Scott, Angela Stiller, João Gomez, maybe Carlos Baliba as well, who it might cost a little bit more. You got four players there, I think, are potential first signings for Manchester United. And whichever one you buy, yeah, you're still going to try and buy a couple more. You're still going to be looking at if too many really wants to leave, you got that option. So you prefer João Gomez over Wharton. So not because who's better, but who we need. Say Gomez for the sixth role, and the eighth, second or third midfield with Scott and maybe Tonali is good. Yeah, this is probably exact. If you've got an idea in your mind of which players you want, it's kind of like it makes sense, doesn't it? That if you're going to sign just one player, like just one player to come into Manchester United midfield, I think too many would be a good option. But I'm not convinced too many is actually going to leave. And I think with United, if they bought Gomez and then bought too many, it's not really a problem, is it? You can get another player to come in, and maybe it would be a bit unfortunate for Gomez, but it might be a little bit like the Trafford Donnarumma situation. If you get one player in signed early, it doesn't mean you can't buy a better player in a couple of months' time. So there is going to be a bit of a player merry-go-round, isn't there? There is going to be a lot dependent on whether Manchester City sell Rodri, whether Pep leaves Manchester City, which is speculation. And if that happens, potentially there's going to be big changes. I think Enzo Fernandez was linked to a move to Manchester City as well. So there's potentially Man City have got a few players linked. It's going to be, yeah, it's not going to be quite as straightforward as we think. So too many will. Jim thinks too many will stay at Real Madrid, and you think there's an issue with. Well, Real Madrid don't want to let him go. According to the news, Real Madrid do not want to let too many leave, and it seems like too many isn't that keen on signing a contract extension. So that's a situation which is probably going to be dragging on a little bit. So I think that's why United probably should just right, forget that for now. Actually, look at what deals you can do to start with. So your ideal pick would be over Wharton would be Stiller. Stiller's pretty rated actually. I think it's like range of passing. You look at athleticism as well. I think people Angela Stiller would potentially be. It would be maybe like £50 million cheaper than Wharton as well. And I think there's like I don't think there's like loads of difference in the age either. So a bit of experience as well, a bit more experienced. Not a bad option. I think also when you're looking at maybe someone saying that João Gomez was linked to Liverpool, Wharton has been heavily linked to Liverpool as well. So that there are multiple players linked to some clubs. So they're not going to sign them all either. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Real Madrid looking to sign Rodri. I mean, they've already got Camavinga, Bellingham, like we said, too many. Like, they've already got a lot of players. So Real Madrid will be looking to uh, if they signed Rodri and they signed Angela Stiller, who two players are looking at, then it might be that someone like too many. Maybe he's concerned that he's going to be playing as a centre back a bit more because he is a very good centre back. So it is like it is that situation where too many might be dissatisfied for other reasons other than you know reasons we think about that. Oh, his contract's big, but if he's not playing in positions he wants to play in, it might be that he's not happy. A bit like Bruno playing deep this season, didn't seem particularly happy. Jim would go for either Alex Scott or Angela Stiller as a first option. I think you look at that and think they're probably deals that are at the moment like Alex Scott. I don't think is on the. I don't think there's going to be other offers coming in the short term. But as far as I can see, Manchester United seem to be the most advanced with that situation. Angela Stiller is definitely Manchester United or Real Madrid. It seems so. I don't think we're going to be no, I don't think we're going to see any other sort of player in the Bundesliga linked, or there's one in La Liga. It's too many, or Angela Stiller in terms of like players from those leagues. I think Vavell's definitely pushing for Angela Stiller. I think Manchester United want to sign a Premier League player first. So if we got Gomez and Angela Stiller, Would people be happy with that one? You still got Belieber. I think it's going to be difficult because I think whatever happens, that there will be some people disappointed. If you really want Tonali or you really want to get try and get too many, if that's possible, these are going to be quite difficult. But I think so you think too many if Rodri goes to Madrid? I think that could be the key, couldn't it? I know with Manchester City, they're usually quite quick with transfers. So if Manchester City do move Rodri on early on in the transfer window, and they do get and say if Manchester City do get Anderson and they do try and get another player as well like Enzo, if they get these deals done quite quickly, move out Rodri, maybe we see something happen. But I think it's going to be Manchester City leading the way with some midfield signings because they tend to be a bit quicker. We know they've got one midfielder leaving. We know that they're trying to sign Anderson. If they announce that, then I think that also makes Manchester United actually have to act a bit quicker. So, Francis, welcome to chat. So let's not get involved with Wolves now, but talking to play until Leeds Atletico made the offer so that then we can match, or else if we come in, the price goes higher again. I suppose this one, the best thing to do for United would be to speak to João Gomez, agree terms with the player, and get the player to want to join United. Now, if United actually want João Gomez, and if they see him as going to be one of their three midfield signings, speak to the player, get João Gomez to actually say he wants to join Manchester United, and then that's going to happen, isn't it? If they want this player, and the player says he wants Manchester United, suddenly it doesn't matter how much you're bidding because it's not going to go to any other club. So there was no bidding war for Benjamin Sesko. There wasn't a bidding war for Mbeumo. If you get the player to want to join you, and so we've got the situation with, we've got the situation at the moment that Belieber agreed terms last year. It's valid until the end of this summer. So terms are agreed with Belieber. He wants to join. I think that's making no other club actually interested in him. So I don't think there's any interest. I think there might have been interest in Belieber from other clubs, but because there's this agreement, then I don't think we're going to see other clubs actually get involved. So it's probably a benefit as well. But if you get in early, it saves you a lot of problems, doesn't it? It's the fact Leeds are making an offer. I think it's probably banking on Manchester United just being slow. But a £50 million offer from Leeds, I think it just stops Atletico getting involved. So according to this as well, Spurs and Chelsea also interested. I think for Chelsea, if Enzo goes and they're losing one of the best midfielders, then João Gomez would be about the sort of price that would be interesting for Chelsea. And maybe the only thing is like, do you think like Spurs might no Spurs? It depends if if they get relegated, they're not in the conversation for anything, are they? But I'd imagine Spurs might be like trying to get a deal done for this sort of player if they did stay in the Premier League. So, what's the most likely destination for Gomez? Do people think? You got there's so many Premier League clubs interested. I think Atletico Madrid it seems like they're going to get priced out either way. Like I don't think they're going to pay £50 million. Premier League clubs might well do that. I think Spurs definitely would. Chelsea definitely would. They've spent a lot of money on players similar sort of age recently, actually a lot more than this. So £50 million, although I think we wanted to get this is probably not great. Probably not great in terms of that one. So you would like United to make a statement signing. What do you put as a statement signing, Jim? Like what would be a signing where you think actually Manchester United have done very well and set the tone? Would it be like Alex Scott? Would it be say like Belieber seems to be the most likely, but is there a player out there you think would be I suppose you've got to think achievable. Would Angela Stiller be a statement signing? Would that be a reason as well? Like what would be your statement signing? And like for Omar as well, other people watching, what would be your ideal first signing in the transfer window? Would you be thinking like if Alex Scott was the first signing? And when I saw this story, I was genuinely interested actually because I thought Alex Scott would be a pretty good signing, and it's one that's achievable. It means that we can still go for like Tonali, we can go for too many. So I thought Alex Scott would be an interesting one because we hadn't really talked about him when we're looking at potential other first signings. I think the João Gomez one didn't seem as exciting. The Carlos Belieber one feels like it's just been dragging on for a long time. But I was thinking a statement signing for me, where you look at it and go, actually, what is going on with Manchester United? They're actually making some like quite serious moves into the transfer window. I think a statement signing would be someone like a Tonali, or it would be someone like a too many. I'm just trying to think of other players that would be maybe a bit of a level above in terms of not just cost, but also in terms of experience. So I think if they're going to go for players that are going to be maybe on the radar recently and maybe recent targets, I don't know if that's a statement signing. Like, I don't think Joe Gomez is a statement signing. I think Belieber might have been last summer, but I think at the moment you probably look at it and say there's probably a few players out there that are potentially gettable quite early. But are United actually going to be? Are we in danger of waiting to find out what happens with Tchouaméni's contract? Whether Anderson wants to join, and do you think Adam Wharton, like, would he be still a statement signing? He was supposed to be quite expensive a year ago. He's probably like 60 or 65 million at the moment. So potentially another player that could be considered a statement signing. I think it depends on how quickly United act. I think last summer we started very quickly with Cunha and people got excited. This one, yeah, yeah, no worries there, Omar. Thanks for finding us again. I think with this, there's some good moderators on here, so hopefully we can keep the chat very respectful and respect people's different views. I say Jim thinks that Adam Wharton would be, say, what a good first signing, a big statement signing. That would be one that lots of people think Adam Wharton is going to go to Liverpool. So if Manchester United did get someone like Wharton, it probably would be seen of an indication that at least Manchester United is actually higher regarded by players. I think based on last season though, because Liverpool won the league, they got Champions League football, they're going to get Champions League football again. They feel like a more stable club, and we're kind of like, no, we've only just got Champions League football. Well, we've almost got it, but we're going to get it this season after a bit of a gap. Big up to you, Clive, as well. No worries, Clive. If you've got any views on transfers as well, please get them in, Clive. But I appreciate you tuning in and getting involved. So you wish the statement was Anderson, and say wish the City charges hit and put players off going there. Or maybe City win the league, Pep disappears. I think they'll probably get Maresca. I don't know. The thing is with City, if Pep leaves, yeah, the situation probably still is largely the same, isn't it? It's yeah, they're going to still keep him. And say I think the statement signing Anderson's difficult because of the Manchester City interest, and it might take a bit of sorting out. Although when City move, sometimes they move quite quickly. I mean, Nottingham Forest won 5-0 last night, unbelievable result. So Nottingham Forest are a Premier League team, and if they can win the European competition they're in, they could be a Champions League team. So Nottingham Forest suddenly out of nowhere completely demolished two teams. They scored 9 goals in 2 games. So Nottingham Forest going nowhere. Anderson actually scored last night as well. Um, so another good performance for the team and him. And so yeah, but things put players going off certain places, don't they? I think with City, there's things that could happen that would put players going off, but I think in the short term, it's just not going to happen. So you think the only club that's bid for Gomez is Atletico Madrid at the moment. I think you're right, Yardi. I think Real Madrid are the one club that's. Let me just find the story or find the graphic, but I think I'm not sure if they've actually put in a hard and fast offer at the moment, Atletico Madrid, or they're considering it. But it seems to be that this is the situation then. So Graham Bailey, journalist this morning, posting Atletico Madrid open talks with Wolves over a potential deal for João Gomez, also a target for Manchester United, and also it seems that they maybe also be a target for Spurs, but obviously lots going on at Spurs, and also a target for Chelsea, which I think Chelsea is also like, a serious threat to a lot of teams. They do tend to offer decent contracts. They do tend to go for players of this sort of age, this sort of experience. So, and it might be that Enzo Fernandez is actually leaving. So it might be that Chelsea can offer first team football as well. Although Chelsea feel like somewhat of a bit of a mess at the moment. So if you're looking at those three clubs and you're João Gomez, I think Manchester United, and if Liverpool are interested, like someone said, Liverpool might be interested. But I think Manchester United would be a better option. I mean, Leeds, you're going to get first team football as well. There's probably a couple of players leaving Leeds after quite a decent season, considering they got promoted the year before. And yeah, difficult situation. I'd imagine you're going to get a lot more money from Manchester United, a lot more of a deal from Chelsea as well. So, with João Gomez, I think Leeds are trying to get in quickly, aren't they? That's what it seems to be. But I think the story is going to be that Leeds are about to make an offer. Well, that's what the story was put out this morning by a couple of different sources. So you like Anderson and Tonali, and say you're saying that they're players that would make a difference. They would be probably considered statement signings, I think, wouldn't they? They would be statement signings. I'd say Angela Still for me, I don't think we can dish the cash for too many. Although too many is he's got what 2 years on his contract, so too many. If he's not signing a new contract, £70 million gets the deal done. It seems so. Too many is not incredibly expensive when you consider this one. So too many is actually not too bad. The Casemiro salary we paid also. Let me just. I'm not going through the comments completely in order because it depends on what we're talking about and how the comments match what I'm saying. Because I think Solly's put the same sort of thing, saying too many. Casemiro contract is pretty much the same sort of thing. The transfer fee is actually pretty similar to Casemiro's was a few years ago. It's very slightly more. I think Casemiro is about 60. Too many is going to be about 70. The salary of Too many is believed to be about £200,000. You've got £50,000 bonus for Champions League, apparently. So you're looking about 275, I think, Real Madrid. I have no idea what Real Madrid are offering him, but I think Manchester United's contract offer would be roughly similar given his experience and value to the teams. And that would be that, yeah, if you're moving on players like Casemiro, Rashford, etc., you're going to bring in good players. They're going to cost quite a lot. Like there's going to be a reason why certain players will move to certain clubs, and salary demands will be one of them. If you're looking at Mark Gahey getting 300k a week, you're looking at Kevin De Bruyne's on 400, Haaland's on 600. Yeah, Man United will be paying quite big salaries if we get Tonali, if we get too many. I think Elliot Anderson's got a 200k a week offer, which is actually not bad considering that Gallagher at Spurs is on 200k a week. So I think Gallagher at Spurs has got a basic contract that at the moment is probably better than Mbeumo, Cunha or Sesko's contracts. So there will be like United will have to pay a decent amount for some of these ones, but yeah, tricky. Yeah, I think Vivell's going to have some credit in the bank. I think Vivell will get listened to because he was making the call about Lamans. I think Christopher Vivell should be listened to. I mean, it's his job to actually oversee the construction of the rebuild, isn't it? And it's his job to decide what players they're looking at, find players to fit Manchester United's what we're aiming towards in terms of trying to rebuild the squad. So I think Vivell is a key person, and I've said this multiple times that he's someone that's probably. I think Vivell is probably one of the reasons why some of the transfers from maybe were made in like the last 12 months have actually been better. And Funchy says you're saying there's countless players, 45 to 60 million, that are far better than Anderson and Tonali at 100. I think you start getting better value, don't you? And I think United are looking at trying to sign some players that will be cheaper, but I think also they are still looking at some of those statement signings. It's going to be yeah. So Tonali would be a statement signing for you, Solly. I think yeah. This is why if I ask 10 people, it's going to be it's going to be a different view for everybody, isn't it? Jim says, why should a player go to Liverpool over? So yeah, Liverpool manager's a bit dodgy. They say you think Wharton would come to Manchester United over Liverpool. So I'm just saying at the moment it's probably the situation probably is going to be a bit different towards the end of the season. But no, I think if you had a conversation say a few months ago, until recently Manchester United haven't been in the same bracket of Liverpool. Liverpool they also have a bigger squad. So you would say that would you go to Liverpool next season because they already have quite a big squad, so you might not get quite so many minutes, but you would maybe be in a squad that's got a little bit more chance of being decent again next season. So they don't want to be held to ransom. Yeah, exactly. Atletico Madrid are looking at Gomez because they can't agree a price with Atalanta for Edison, and they've agreed terms with Edison. Like I think ages ago they agreed terms with Edison, and that's why Man United keep being linked to Edison because at the moment Atalanta they got a certain price they want. Atletico don't want to pay it, and I think they're shopping around. I think they're looking at other options and seeing what is on what is what is there. It's the same as Manchester United looking at other options as well, seeing what's there. And say players going to Chelsea, then I would probably say you make a good point. If you go to Chelsea, then apart from João Pedro, it seems to be like not great, does it? It's like maybe I don't know, maybe what's the best way of putting it? Maybe your profile goes down, you get fewer games. Chelsea, they're having problems at the moment. Chelsea are buying a lot of players, but they're not necessarily buying the top quality players. We bought Cunha, they bought Garnacho. I think that's the difference. And they probably João Pedro. If they hadn't bought João Pedro, I think honestly over the whole season Chelsea would probably be mid-table. But I think João Pedro had a big impact at a certain stage of the season. So Tonali, yeah, 100 million for Tonali is steep, isn't it? I think Newcastle are just they've got they. I don't think Newcastle are going to let Tonali go for cheap. The difference probably is too many hasn't got long on his contract. By comparison, I think Tonali's got 5 years. I think he's under contract to like 2030 or something like that. So when players have got a lot of years on their contract, Tonali's going to be expensive, like really expensive. So I wonder why Boadi isn't a consideration. I don't know. The only thing I can think of is that the price is gradually pushing up because he was an exceptional player. I mean, he's only 18, and I think he should be on the radar. But I think it could be like the price is going up. And maybe now he's apparently valued at about maybe 40 million pounds. So if we'd have gone a year ago, it could be 2025, couldn't it? But I don't know. I'm genuinely interested where Boadi goes. I haven't really seen links to other clubs. All I saw was that when it came to January, the talk about Boadi was they don't want to sell. I think they want to keep him there. But if an offer came in of about maybe 35 to 40 in January, they'd have sold him. I don't know why clubs aren't looking at him. Maybe they think he's not quite ready for the Premier League and he might develop actually better where he is. But that seems like the sort of deal that Chelsea would do, then loan him back to it's that Lille, isn't it? They would loan him back to the club and maybe let him develop there, then bring him back. So it's one of those situations where I think United want to get players that have the Premier League experience, or if they're not in the Premier League, like too many and Angela Stiller are vastly experienced, aren't they? So I think United, if they're going to go for someone young, they would go for someone that's young in the Premier League, I suppose. And it might be a bit like Yoro and Aiden Heaven, where you think Yoro was a young player in a different league, Aiden Heaven a young player, but in I don't know, play at Arsenal. Maybe that's a factor. And welcome, Sebastian, to the chat. Good to see you, Sebastian. I always like forget. Are you in the Caribbean, Sebastian? Because I know there's like I was thinking like time difference where it is you were like quite a few hours difference to us. So we need experience, says Omar. So number one, Casemiro literally said the CDM position is the most important in terms of like leading experience in that position. And say Tonali, I agree. We're literally trying to replace one of the most experienced midfielders in world football, aren't we? So whatever people's view is on whether Casemiro has the legs for like more years, he was the most experienced player we had. He'd lifted an unbelievable amount of trophies, and even like now, he's still people like Kobe Mainoo are benefiting by playing alongside players like Casemiro. So I think you'd have to look like too many feels like a logical replacement as he replaced Casemiro at Madrid, and Tonali seems like a good replacement. You got international Champions League experience again, a player that's coming into his peak years. I say Vivell was the one trying to find a new manager. As you've been yelled at a few people for saying this before, but it's a true thing. Wilcox does have a say. Yeah, he does have a say. I think I think with this one, like with Vivell has been pushing. So if you're looking at this, and if you want to, this is going to be one where we kind of know what Vivell wants because it's been widely reported. If Manchester United go for Nagelsmann, then Christopher Vivell is the person pushing it. If United sign Angela Stiller, it means they've listened to Babel. Okay, there's a lot of other players that I don't like. Belieber, Wharton, Anderson. I don't know who's actually pushing that, but I think when you see some stories about Diamonde or Angela Stiller, Nagelsmann, then Christopher Babel is the person that's pushing those acquisitions as being good. I think it's a bit of like with João Gomez. I think that's just a club decision in terms of this one. I say if we're talking about Liverpool, we might finish above Liverpool, but I think you have to look at over the last 4 or 5 years. Liverpool are regularly in the Champions League. They've lifted the Premier League trophy recently. It is a club considered that next season will also be in a title race again. So Liverpool are a serious competition for Manchester United. And United, we probably need to step on next season to kind of bridge that gap. Like if we finished above Liverpool next season with Champions League football, that would be, for me, I think it might be a bit surprising at this stage of a rebuild. But if we did that, I think we can go. We'd have a different situation next year, 100%. If we finished above Liverpool twice in a row and we're running a successful Champions League campaign, I think players like Wharton, if they're not if they don't have an allegiance towards Liverpool, then Man United would be a good destination. But I think you have to say over the last few years, Liverpool, Manchester City, Arsenal are still a bit ahead in terms of that. I think actually Arsenal might not be if I'm looking at that. I think Liverpool and Man City would be probably the two Premier teams in terms of like player recruitment size. A morning to Brill, it says Edison, Gomez, and Scott would be a top summer. So actually, that's in terms of like three players to choose from to pick. That's actually not the most expensive one either. So if we're looking 50 for Scott, 50, well, actually 50-ish for Scott, 50 for Gomez. Edison, I don't know how much they're wanting at the moment. I don't know how much Atletico are trying to get this deal done, but I was thinking like 40-ish, 40 to 45 might be sensible. Clive saying 80 maybe. What and what's the 80 for, Clive? I was just trying to find this one. So Funchy said Leeds United must be mad right now. If João Gomez only had a 35 buyout clause, or should I say relegation clause. That's what everybody thinks, isn't it? Is there a chance that maybe it's not the case? Maybe he's going to be a bit more expensive than that is, I don't know. I'd say Buadi price is increasing for many interests. There's a lot of teams interested in Buadi. It felt like a no-brainer. We talked about Buadi 12 months ago, like in terms of like credit, like a viable signing, and it was like no. If you're looking at Hackney, look at Buadi. Like it's probably be a bit cheaper at the time, and it's just gonna become more and more expensive. Like United could have bought him, loaned him back to the club, and they'd have made like 10 million, 15 million profit already. So. I don't know. I don't know. It's almost like if between us we could raise like I don't know whatever it cost 25, 30 million, we could have all made a nice profit if we could then sold them 12 months later. But I'm surprised the club didn't go in for him. Upstairs we're always disappointed. So, do you think this time is it going to be different? Like last summer, I don't think last summer was disappointed. I don't think it was disappointing last summer. I think that the quality of the players we got were very good. So I don't think it was disappointing. Mark says he's yeah, they're certainly not going to listen to me, are they? They're not going to listen to me. If I say I think Whitey's a good option, that I have no say. The only thing that happened last season was my views on who was the best options to buy were Cunha and Embuemo. And I think I got lucky that that was the one transfer window in about a decade where the players I wanted got signed. So I agree. Good to see you, Rob, in the chat. Hope you're enjoying your holiday as well. Yeah, maybe with Liverpool, I think Liverpool need to sort out the manager situation at the moment. Um, so Edison contract is just 26 million, but Atalanta want 35 to 40. Yeah, exactly. I think they want that one, and that price is going up. So Funchy says Hayden Hackney is 40 million. Is that what's your source on that? Is that definitely true? If Hayden Hackney is 40 million, that's crazy because there was interest from Spurs, interest from Manchester United in Hayden Hackney in January, and the price was put out by this is Middlesbrough sources. They said right, 30 million pounds is going to get the deal done, and that was the price. If he's now 40, then it just goes to show that what was the reason for not signing him in January if that's the case? It would be a bit stupid because the price in January we thought the price in January was quite high in terms of if you wanted to put it this way, I've been following Hayden Hackney's story for a while because we're looking at cheaper midfielders and we looked in the Championship. Hayden Hackney would have been, I think, actually, if you remember, who was it? Somebody offered money for Hayden Hackney. I think it was Ipswich Town, and I think Middlesbrough agreed to take 25 million for him, something like that. Then you fast forward to January, they want 30 million. If they genuinely want 40, then it's stupid, isn't it? It's literally that I don't know. It's I don't know what to say about that. If he is 40, then we could have got him for 25 a year ago. And say, is he injured? Is he injured? I thought Hayden Hackley had just been voted Player of the Season. So if that's the case, yeah. Solly says, yeah. So we did good in the window last summer. I think some people were disappointed because they wanted the midfield solved. I think that's the difference. If Manchester United had bought Belieber last summer, even though people have changed their minds on Belieber currently, if Manchester United had bought Belieber last summer, I think most fans would have gone, actually, that's an excellent window. I think we thought that was quite good. What would be a good window at the moment? Like, would it be if United fixed midfield, got three signings in of the players we talked about over the last couple of days, and got a couple more signings? Would that be considered a successful window? Would that be considered sufficient? I think as a minimum, I think if United go right, we're going to spend big, we're going to get three midfield players for 200 million, and then we can spend maybe 100 million around the rest of the team. I think given that we're not looking at the same sort of mistakes we made years ago, I think the prices actually, I don't think football prices have come down, but I think Manchester United are potentially being a bit more savvy in the deals they're looking at. Like, for example, Angela Stiller could be the same sort of money, maybe slightly more than Agate, but I think a lot better player, and certainly much better than someone like Sancho or Anders or yeah, probably looking at the other players we signed that were a bit too expensive. And I think that United are gradually making better decisions, and that means that we'll probably still spend the same amount of money we always do, but we might get more talent. Like if you're looking at signing Lamans, I think Lamans was for me suddenly a change in strategy where we listened to scouts and we actually got a goalkeeper that was probably, if you think about if you could name 10 goalkeepers Manchester United were linked to last summer, I think there was at least 10 talked about. I think Lamans might actually be the cheapest one. And I think we're linked to probably about 12 midfielders at least at the moment. And at the moment, probably probably Angela Stiller is one of the cheaper ones. Like he is one of the cheaper deals potentially. And would Stiller and Belieber work then to Solly? I suppose it depends how Man United want to play. Like if Manchester United want to get a pure CDM and want to go because I think at the moment like was Casemiro playing as a CDM? The amount of goals he got, the amount of times he was further forward, I think he's playing a lot further forward than he did at Madrid. And if you're looking at United next season, do you want to get a CDM? Do you want to get a player to play? No, do you want to get a player to protect the back four? Like, because for Anderson can do that CDM role. He can protect the back four, can screen them effectively. But also, we saw yesterday actually scored a goal. He can get up the pitch a bit more. He can get involved. So I think he can do a bit of everything. And I think with United, I think United demand a bit more than having just one sitting CDM. I think if you're going to have like two eights that can alternate going forward, again, it could be an exciting one, but maybe what they need to do is you're going to have Kobe Mainu, and like, where's Kobe Mainu's best position? Should it be further forward where he has actually looked decent in the past? Should it be in defence? He's incredibly good in restricted space on the pitch and first touch and decision making and passing is spot on. So in terms of like linking midfield to defence, he'd be very good. Or would you look at saying like we're going to have four people? Kerry Main is one of them. Why not have a CDM? Why not have a couple more eights? And why not actually have a situation where, depending on which opposition we're playing, then maybe you want a CDM on the pitch, but there might be games where you think actually maybe you want to have a couple of eights on the pitch instead, like depending on which which opposition you're playing. So I think it makes sense to go for if we're looking at one person to play alongside Kobe Manu, it's one thing. But I think if you're looking at building a midfield for the Premier League season, I think you almost need like three different players to give you three different opportunities. Like, they give you like all these different combinations. Like maybe Angela Stiller plus Kobe Mainoo is going to be a good option. Maybe the next game Tonali plus Angela Stiller will be a good option. Maybe Tonali plus João Gomez is going to work. Or there's different options, isn't there? I think you need to look at it and say playing against Manchester, no, for Manchester United next season, playing in the Champions League against an elite team is going to require a different lineup to playing in the Champions League against a team we're expected to beat comfortably and control the game. And there will be a big range in quality. And playing against Manchester City and Arsenal might require a different setup to playing. I don't know, any of the team, like playing against Coventry City that just been promoted. There might be very different situations that Manchester City might be expected to control possession. Coventry might be in a low block the whole match, and it might be that you look at your team and go, if you need to have a range of players. If we have like three players that are quite similar, I don't think it's ideal. And I think that's why if you look at trying to get the first deal done, then Joe Gomez is a good option as a first deal. I think Alex Scott is a good option as a first deal. I think Angela still is a good option. But once you buy that first player, I think then you've got a change in strategy because then you think, actually, now we've got one player in. Now let's have a look at what works with those two players in. So I think the first deal is interesting because then also it determines the market as well. I don't think the prices are going to be going down this summer. I think the prices are only going to be going up. And with a World Cup, there's probably a few players that the clubs that want to sell them probably are hoping that they have a big World Cup to push the price up, whereas the clubs that are buying are going to want to get some deals done. So difficult, isn't it? Say, believe we got crushed by that transfer disappointment. Not a good game. So maybe the most recent game was probably one of the better ones, but yeah. As I say, Debassa says the only thing stopping Manu is his consistency, but Manu's only just turned 21. So I think with this one thing that most people, we're all football fans, the one thing that younger players have quite often, apart from maybe Wayne Rooney and maybe Ryan Giggs, maybe Nicolas Anelka, but most younger players, they do have a bit erratic consistency. But Kobe Manu's played for already in his career, he's played for about four head coaches in like 2 years, like a couple of interims, and looking at the situation that Mainu has represented England, he got into the England team, so Mainu's had a lot of highs, and he's had a lot of issues with the last head coach not choosing him. So that I think with this one, also he's played alongside different midfielders as well. I think I think being inconsistent is just part of being a player that's 19, 20, and I think that that's going to be definitely something. So you would prefer one experienced, one young prospect, and say what happened to Kone? Kone, I don't know. Kone went to Lausanne, didn't he? I think Kone will be back next season. I don't know the situation regarding that one, but you might see that. Does Michael Carrick have a say in transfers? I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because at the moment, I don't. I think Michael Carrick needs to be appointed head coach for next season before having a say in transfers. I think in terms of a coach, then and I think in terms of like this one where you're looking at what Manchester United need to do, I think Michael Carrick would definitely be someone to ask about in terms of like if United were interested in Hackney, you'd speak to Michael Carrick, find out what his strengths and weaknesses are, find out whether he'd actually be worth trying to get. So I think Michael Carrick's someone you can ask questions, but I don't think Michael Carrick at the moment would be in a conversation because he needs to get his focus this season is making sure United get over the line, get Champions League football. But I think we might be seeing a situation where if Michael Carrick's head coach, I think he's involved in the conversation, but I think Vivell's going to be and the scouts are going to have a lot more say in transfers. I think if you consider like a player contract of 5 years plus one, and you consider how long does a manager on average stay at a Premier League club? Like the average contract for a player, the average duration for a manager. I think if you're looking at getting your managers to choose your team, then it's not going to really help. 2 years down the line, the manager's often sacked. And like, a head coach at Chelsea has zero say because I think the transfers are already done by other people. I think Carrick can be someone you talk to. He's a good coach. He's an experienced player. I think you can talk to him, but I don't think Michael Carrick's going to be. If he's in charge next season, I think he should definitely be someone to like make suggestions. But yeah, I don't know if how much influence he'd have. I would say Scott is really good, says Sebastian. Yeah, he might be quite a good first option in terms of this one. And Welcome Cake says that so the board are going to be signed. So are the board going to sign players based off character style? No, I think this one, if you remember, and big up to you, Sebastian. if you're looking at this in terms of, I think it's the other way around. So in terms of what the situation is at Manchester United, then a year ago, 18 months ago, it was put out that Christopher Vivell is in charge of player recruitment, and I think Wilcox, and probably with Christopher Vivell as well, Wilcox is apparently in charge of sort of style of play. The director of football and the recruitment director are supposed to be working together, but they're going to decide which players are signed. They're going to decide roughly, kind of they're going to have an idea of what formation tactics the squad's going to be suited for. So Michael Carrick is working at the moment within what the squad is. He's not going to be able to, he couldn't sign players in January. I think the idea is going to be that if United will sign players that will suit a style of play, whether it's going to be a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, they're going to look at coaches that then can coach that way. They're going to try and construct a squad first and then find a head coach that fits with that. So I think you're in a situation where United don't want to give too much control to a head coach, and that is why Tuchel said no to Manchester United when Manchester United spoke to him just before sacking Eric Ten Hag. Manchester United were not relinquish control to a head coach. Tuchel was like, okay, that's not a situation I want to be in. So it will put people off. That's why I was saying Nagelsmann's a bit of a separate case because Nagelsmann has a good relationship with Vivell. Vivell knows him well. It could be that you're looking at a situation where maybe Nagelsmann. I'm not saying Nagelsmann gets more say or more influence, but maybe Christopher Vivell likes him because maybe they got the same sort of ideas. So you're going to have to, yeah, if you have a situation like Amram where he wants to do one thing, the people above him aren't going to be getting those sort of players. It was just a bad appointment. Like this is nothing necessarily against Amarin, it's that it was not a good appointment because he wanted wing backs in. Manchester United had no interest in playing that style of football really. So I don't know why they appointed him. Delit's back training, Marks. I don't know if he's had surgery though, but I think medical stuff should probably be confidential. I know we want to know, but I think medical stuff should be confidential information. So I don't know if Delit's had anything like that. I don't know if it's in the public domain, but no, he's back. He's back training. I think that's probably all we need to know. I have no idea if there's any sort of. No one knows if there's going to be a return date with this one. Okay, so I think character deserves to have an input on signings. It should be a collective decision. I think if you're looking at if Michael Carrick's appointed head coach for next season, I think he should 100% have a bit of a say, like in terms of like at least have an input to say we need a midfielder that can do this sort of thing. This is kind of how I coach, etc. So I think he should have a say. I agree with that one. He should have a say. And what's your thoughts on this one? Big up to you, Rob. Enjoy your holiday. To go back to the situation, should I put a poll in the comments about whether we should sign João Gomes for 50? Is that worth a vote? So I'll put that in the comments because, cheers, Clive. So let's put this in the comments. It's going to be about 50 million, I believe. So I'll put this one in the comments. Should United sign, or should United offer 50? If that's going to be what it takes for Gomez, okay, collective decision. It's a difficult one. I think at 40, it's like a no-brainer. Should United offer 50 million for Gomez? Yes or no? That's the thing we're going to vote on for this stream. Because at the moment, I'm going to say that if there was a don't know, I think that might be popular. But if you had to make a decision now, just say if Leeds table a 50 million bid, and it looks like they're going to be making a record breaking for Leeds. So I think Man United's record signing must be Pogba, and so 50 million for Leeds just to try and get where people stay. Because when I talked about João Gomez a week ago, we thought he was 35 to 40, so everybody said what a great deal, like definitely get him in. And I think at 35, it's a no-brainer. 35, get him signed straight away. 50, I don't know, it's a bit closer. And Mark says we need two fullbacks, so Short and Dally need to go. I think you have to look at say that and say I think United at the moment are probably going to be buying a maximum like one fullback, and I don't think it's going to necessarily be an experienced one. it might be a bit cheaper. Say, yeah, don't trust Bayern Munich. Don't trust. How much did Mathis Tell cost? Solly says we're the team with the least mistakes leading to a goal. And say credit to the defense, losing Martinez and Delit and still delivering. That's actually, I suppose, when you think about it, if you think about the goal that Fulham scored, and you think about the goal that Everton scored, and you think about the goals that Rodgers scored, those were like strikes from distance, weren't they? Like kind of wonder goals. So I think if you're looking at this, I think that there's some of the goals we conceded were just incredible shots. But that's interesting. That's interesting. So that's a tough poll. Exactly. It's not the easiest one, is it? So yeah, you meant yeah, you clicked yes, you meant no. Okay. I can't help you there, Jim. I can't help you. I can only set the stream up. I can only set the poll up, but um so if 50 million is actually what it takes to get Gomez, I will walk away and go Bundesliga for 30 to 40 million. I think if Manchester United don't go for this one, if we don't go for Gomez, I think Angela Stiller is like in terms of if you want to go to the Bundesliga, I don't think Man United are looking at any other player apart from the Bundesliga. And Welcome Broken says, I sort of disagree. The idea that United don't want to give managers control, say, is damaging. And say, I don't believe Amrin is a bad coach. He wanted players the owners didn't give him. Yeah, I think I was saying along those lines that Amrin wanted a certain profile of player. The owners weren't going to go buy those sort of players. It feels a little bit like that conversation should have happened before he was appointed, and that it could have been completely avoided. But so I don't think Manchester United want to give control to head coaches. That's and I think it's partly because of like Eric Ten Hag, but I think it's genuinely probably because that players are going to stay at the club longer than a head coach. So you may as well construct the team with the long term goals in mind rather than actually short term goals of individual managers that just want to get results to keep their job. So I think if you want to build for the future, you almost need to like think, right, let's just build the squad year on year, go towards a certain aim, which might be in 2 years' time. Maybe that's the goal of what squad they're aiming to try and construct. And head coaches will come in along the way, but I don't think head coaches can get short-term signings to try and benefit short-term results. You've got to still think of the overall plan. So, unfortunately, I think the transfer strategy benefits Manchester United as a club with like say, but no manager last year got benefited by people like say Dorgu getting signed a year ago and Aiden Heaven getting signed in the short term, but in the long term they're actually quite good signings. But say Gomez as a backup, Gomez is a decent buy. Yeah, this is it, isn't it? I think most people say he's a good, solid Premier League midfielder. Should he cost 50 million is the difficult one as well. Difficult, tricky deal to do. V Hut, you got a name that I will definitely pronounce wrong, but V in the chat says United should act fast. This boy is good, Premier League proven. 50 million takes like saying, is 50 million too much? Is 50 million too much? It's I think 50 million might be that didn't Manchester United spend 50 million pounds on Fred about what how long ago was that? We spent 50 million euros on Agate. I think 50 million pounds is kind of like the 35 million would be cheap, 40 would be a good deal. If Hackney ends up costing like 35, then I think it's probably about where the market is. It feels like a lot of money. If you've been watching football for a long time, it feels like a lot of money, but it's quite tricky, isn't it? It's quite difficult to say where if we had a situation. Can you imagine if Gomez went for 50 and say in I don't know like 2 months' time we see Alex Scott going for 65, then Gomez will actually look like not a bad deal. So it's really difficult. So you think 35, 40, then yeah. So these are the stories. So just to put this into like perspective, the journalist was first off starting. I think Ben Jacobs was saying offers around 40 million should get the deal done. Okay, so this is it. So Wolves were valuing him at around 40 million. Ben Jacobs posting this yesterday, sometime late last night, possibly. So if he's valued about 40 million, and then we see the story this morning that it looks like Chelsea want him, Manchester United want him, Spurs are monitoring him, etc. Leeds and Atletico Madrid were going to make us an offer as well. So the Graham Bailey story was that Atletico Madrid are going to make an offer. So it was first off, it was going to be, Wolves valuation. Then it became like Graham Bailey saying that there's going to be, an offer coming in. This is the Graham Bailey story. So this is the first thing I saw this morning. Atletico Madrid open talks. They're just annoyed with Edison taking too long. So you got a few different clubs involved. I think that just pushed the maybe that's pushing the price up. That there's suddenly a bit of demand, and because I thought the price was going to be 35, 40, but again, hopefully when this deal gets done, we can look at it and go, actually, what was the first stories, and maybe that'll help us actually try and work out what the deal is. But yeah, welcome, Mr. B. I was saying, Mr. B, message you on Instagram. I was going to try and answer your questions from yesterday. I was saying, yeah, we're good, and Forest Forest up for sure. The games at 3 o'clock are going to be very interesting. I think West Ham and Spurs both play at the same sort of time. Interesting, interesting. Pundit Cody, good to see you. Good to see you in the chat. This is one where I said definitely vote. So sorry for reminding people about Fred. Say Fred was 52 million, but Rich, 50 is too much for a backup player. How much do Man City pay for backup players? How much do Liverpool pay for backup players? How much are Arsenal playing for players that are on the bench? I think I think it's different. I think if Manchester United want to pay 50 million pounds for a backup player, if you want backup players to be good, you kind of have to buy good players, don't you? So I do agree that people are saying £50 million is too much for a backup player. But I think the thing is, if you want to improve your squad, then your backup players can't be academy players and players that aren't very good. You have to have backup players that are, again, I think backup sounds a bit harsh. I'll say that this is the reason why I say this. If you consider him a backup player, I think you should also be looking at a player that can improve, can hit higher level. So maybe with Joao Gomez, I don't think Joao Gomez is thinking, "Oh, great, I'm looking forward to being a backup player." I think Joao Gomez will be looking to try and force his way into the team, and I think you need to actually make sure that the people on the bench should be similar quality to the people on the pitch. But if Joao Gomez comes off the bench, that we're not going to consider it a drop in quality, and that's why it's going to cost a lot more. If we bought a player for 15 million that had a mediocre season in the championship that was a prospect for the future, we'd be looking at him on the bench thinking, well, we could bring him on. It's a bit of a drop off. But if you look at United started last season a game where Cunha was on the bench. That's kind of the level you need. It's about having, I think, a squad for this one. So whether this is not on Joe Gomez or other players, it's going to be. Cody said, yeah, this is like Leeds. That 50 million is that Leeds are preparing to offer 50 million for him. Man United aren't going to be necessarily offering that, but that goes to show that Bunchy said 50 million for Gomez shows we're desperate. We haven't offered 50 million though. That's the Leeds are going to offer that. But United, it's up to us whether we don't necessarily actually need to offer 50 million. If the player says I'm not going to go to Leeds, which most people in their right mind would say, then Manchester United can get the deal done for 40, can't they? So this is the same energy as Newcastle United offering more money than Manchester United for Benjamin Sesko. Manchester United did not need to spend more than Newcastle to get the deal done. If Leeds United offer 50 million for João Gomez, Manchester United can still buy João Gomez cheaper because all Gomez needs to do is say, I want Manchester United. Obviously, not dirty Leeds United, but Manchester United. So, I mean, I just say Leeds instead of like United for Leeds. But no, all he needs to do is come out and say, I want United. I want a piece of like Old Trafford. I want to come and play for one of the best teams in England. I don't want to play for Leeds in front of that rubbish ground. He wants to go to a proper club like Manchester United. That's all you need to do. So if Gomez comes out and says, I want to go to Manchester United, It doesn't matter. Leeds can offer 100 million. If the player doesn't want to go there, there's nothing they can do. So I think United, honestly, if United want him, I think United should offer 40 and then get Gomez to say, right, I want to come to Old Trafford and we can buy him for 40, 10 million less than Leeds offer. That would be funny. Like I saw someone in the comments at the start said, let's offer 51, let's offer 40, let's undercut Leeds and get the player wanting to join us and get the deal done that way. That would be great. So you can't win titles by hiring managers and simply always looking for alternatives. Yeah, I think people are saying that is that the head coach needs to be aligned with the director of football, doesn't he? That's the only thing that as long as there's agreement, it's all good. They did beat they did beat us. What I'm saying is that we don't need to pay more than them. We don't need to pay more than them. I mean, we'll see what happens with this one, but there's still if you're João Gomez and there's interest from both Chelsea, Manchester United, Atletico Madrid. Atletico's actually attempting one. I'd be actually if I was João Gomez, I'd be tempted by that one more than Leeds. But you know, I don't know. What's Leeds going to do next season? Are they going to stay up again? Who knows? It's tricky, isn't it? No. So I've got the poll running in the chat. I can't see the vote. I'll just have a quick look on what sort of percentage it's at the moment. 67% of people say we should go for this one. What do people think then regarding what I just said? Do you think there's scope for Manchester United to actually undercut Leeds and get this deal done? Because that is exactly what we did with Benjamin Sesko. So we could get this deal done at a lower price. So Benjamin, I can't remember how much Newcastle United were prepared to offer for Sesko, but at the time, Newcastle fans were angry with me because they said, "Oh, he's definitely coming to Newcastle. We've offered him a bigger contract. We're offering Leipzig more money." But I don't think it's that case. So we're looking at say two CDMs costing 75, a backup costing 50, 200 million spend. But what I'm saying is that he doesn't like too many 70 million. Gomez doesn't have to cost 50. But if Manchester United don't pay this, then Manchester City will. So if you want to try and save money, then we're not going to get the same players, are we? If you think about it, Manchester United spent quite big money on Andy Cole, quite big money on Dwight York, Yap Stam, um, Wayne Rooney, Rio Ferdinand. Arsenal was signing cheaper options all the time, and Manchester United dominated the league. So I'm just saying for people watching, is there scope for Manchester United to undercut Leeds and get a cheaper deal? I think there is still that possibility. Like he says, Joe Gomez, I don't mind getting him as a second signing. And yeah, all I think with this is that I think the first signings that I think the most expensive signings of the window are just going to be more difficult and more difficult. I know they're stupid though, aren't they? They don't know what they're doing a lot of the time. I think they're trying to run Man United on a budget, and that is not good. Leeds have a solid fan base. I mean, I'm just joking a bit regarding that one, but what I'm saying is that people do remember the Sesko situation. Manchester United paid less than Newcastle were prepared to. So yeah, and that's saying Angela Stiller plus Gomez, and say, okay, quick question, like a yes or no question. Can you see Manchester United spending close to £200 million on just midfield players? Like, yes or no? Do you think Manchester United will potentially spend £200 million on midfield? Like maybe like 180, 190, but that sort of price bracket. Do you think that is something that is going to happen? Because I last season we did it on the forward players. I said probably when the transfer window was happening, I said Cunha and Buemo and Gyökeres or Sesko. I said we're going to spend close to £200 million on three players, and we got and Buemo's like just over 70 with add-ons. Cunha was 62. Benjamin Sesko, I think he's about 70 with add-ons. We spent about £200 million, didn't we, on three players? I think we are like generally going to spend about 200, maybe 170, 180 on three midfield players. If we don't, I'll be disappointed, but that's my guess at the moment. I think we will spend that amount of money on those players, and I'm not sure Gomez is going to be one. I think there's definitely more probability that Belieber or Angela Stiller would be one, but at the moment, you can't rule anything out at all. It's difficult. You can't rule anything out at the moment. There may be like one or two surprising options that prop up, but Antibastis thinks we will. Solly thinks we will. Lucky says no, I don't think so because we're going to sell as well on midfield. What I mean is like the three players coming in, will they cost that sort of money? I mean, the fact we could be selling Agate potentially is good to raise money, but I think if you look at, say we got Gomez, Belieber plus Angela Stiller, we might end up costing, it might end up costing like no, at least 150, closer to 200 million if you go for a Tonali or if you go for possibly a higher target. But I think there's money to be made as well. So Kenyan Buemasesco shows the ambition. See if they follow it up. Say I can't see why not. Jim wants success fast. How old is Jim? I mean, without being like what's the word? Without being what's the word? Like Jim's not the sort of age that can really wait as long as some people, is he? Like Jim Ratcliffe isn't like a 40-year-old. He wants to get success a bit quicker as well. So there could be reasons why he wants to get these deals done fast. But no, so that shows the ambition last season. So 72. Okay, he's still got time. But what I was saying was he doesn't want to wait until he's like he doesn't want an ongoing situation, does he? So Genghis is saying I reckon it'll cost around 180 on three midfield targets. I'd probably agree with this one. I say net 200, but not quite. Remember, we've got to sell as well. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking like 200 million, but we will get players coming in. So what I mean is that if you just add up the value of how much they cost, about 200, but we will get things coming in for sure. I was thinking if you look at the players we're linked to, 60 million is about an average deal, isn't it? Like you have maybe Belieber's about 60, maybe Alex Scott is going to be cheaper than 60, Gomez cheaper than 60, Angela Stiller cheaper than 60, Wharton, well, but slightly more. Tonali, a bit more. Tchouameni, a little bit more. Anderson, possibly a decent bit more, depending on what happens. But I think 60 is like an average. And if you think you get three players in, I think it's going to be absolutely fine. Like it's doable, isn't it? There's lots of combinations of three players we can buy that we can get done for. Now, if you want Anderson, you go for a couple of cheaper options. If you want Tonali, you get sensible options as well. I think there's too many options of good players you can buy for that amount of money. I think the idea that they can cost 100 each, that there's so many options. So we're currently looking at former Castilla, okay, and Angela Stiller. So that they're both from Stuttgart, aren't they? So this one, yeah, D Hexion, big up to you, says 150 to 180. Exactly. But it depends on who we end up with. But I think you're not going to get three players cheaper than 150. I don't think it's going to cost significantly more than. I don't think it's going to cost more than 200. So it's the like Belieber, Scott, Gomez doable for 180. Exactly. If Belieber cost a bit more, Gomez will cost a bit less. Scott is a guess about what price he is, but again, it's about that. I think I'd be very surprised if it goes crazy. So Rashford will go to Bayern Munich. I mean that. I mean, I was hoping that Harry Kane would play with Rashford about 3 years ago at Old Trafford, but um, that could be one that could be decent one. Considering Harry Kane, you know, it might be useful to have someone that could be a bit more pace alongside him. Okay, so just put down your 3K. I know you say you think we're not going to necessarily always get certain targets, but what would be your three you'd go for? So you might be the only one that's not sure on Scott. Seems a bit cumbersome for our style. You might be wrong. I would say Scott is maybe the one that is maybe the most recent one. So I think that's the one that fans are very happy with the way Bournemouth are playing, and I think Scott obviously benefits from that as well. But I think Alex Scott. When I was talking to a couple of people, some people haven't watched Alex Scott as much, and my point was going to be when I watched Bournemouth, I was genuinely focusing on um, Probably Semenyo at the start of the season because I was kind of like sort of watching Bournemouth, looking at Semenyo, scouting him a little bit. So Gomez plus two more central midfielders. I don't mind being able to play 8 and 6, but I really like a proper DM. That's what said probably at the start of the stream that if Manchester United went for an elite CDM, like say too many, for example, I think you could also be looking at saying that if you're gonna consider the squad is going to be 4 players, okay, you've got Kobe Mainoo, 3 other midfield players. I think what you could be looking at is like maybe one of those players is going to be like a too many, maybe like an elite six. Maybe you got Khomeini there as well, and maybe you're looking at say 2 different profiles as well. Like maybe there's like an Angela Stiller, maybe there's a Belieber, maybe you're looking at 4 players that in different games you play different combinations. So I think it's very much a squad game this season, and in the Premier League, for example, every game's different. It'd be good to have some combinations. I think United need to actually have we need to look at the bench next season, and that bench needs to have people as good as Gomez or Stiller or Kobe Mainoo or Wharton. It needs to have players that are good. They're not all going to start every single game. I think you need to actually have a good mix of competition for places as well, but also options. Like it's a squad game, so if you don't start every game, you're going to be featured. You're going to come off the bench. We could bring people on a bit earlier in matches as well, so and mix things up. Like, welcome, John. Yeah, I think everybody's good. I think people are probably the Premier League's kind of wrapping up to an interesting conclusion, isn't it? And I think that the trans for me, does it seem that everything's happening a bit earlier this season? That this transfer news seems to be coming out a bit quicker. I don't know if it's because Man United are actually a bit more organised, or whether teams are actually fighting. I think the World Cup might be making teams actually go things a lot quicker. So that hopefully is something that United will get involved in. So if City signed Anderson, you would look at Wharton. Yeah, I think Wharton's definitely rated, isn't it? I think Wharton may have like for some reason, I don't know what the reason. I think for some reason Wharton seems to have dropped down the United's like priority a little bit. I know Anderson was like the top priority. I think Tonali and too many might be the ones they're looking at in terms of like they do rate Wharton. I think that Vivel's pushing Angela Stiller, thinking that he can do things that Wharton does and might cost a little bit less and might be a bit more achievable. But again, it depends if that's the case. Was it said there's similarity with Wharton? There was something that someone did post an article saying that maybe there's similarity with Maine and Wharton, which I don't think is a problem. If you're going to have 4 players that essentially are competing or rotating in for 2 positions, I don't think it's a problem if they're quite similar. That they're playing in different teams, so it's really difficult to say that like was towards the last few years of their career. Would you say that Roy Keane and Scholes were similar? They're both dictating the game, but Scholes was a much more of a passing player. Roy Keane was much more of a hard tackling, short passing game, also good ball progressor. I think you can look at players playing the same position and say they are both elite players, but they offer different things. But now, if you're looking at playing a certain game, having Scholes and Keane is like perfect because they're very good complementary partners. But you could also look at games where maybe Roy Keane would be more effective, maybe games where Scholes would be more effective. I think you just need to actually have a good squad. Yeah, it could be that we have 2 elite starters and we have other people fighting for positions. That there's no guarantee that Mainoo walks into the team either next season. So if you get Wharton, it might be solid competition for Mainoo, which I think it's still something we need. I think we still need some competition for places. So there is a vote at the moment. Would you pay £50 million for Joao Gomez? 68% of people are currently voting that they would pay £50 million. I think we should offer less and hope that he decides to join us and not join Leeds. But I don't know if that's going to be the case. I'm not sure whether Manchester United actually look at Joao Gomez as in their top 3 anyway. So I was thinking that Belieber's definitely in the top 3. I think Angela Stiller is probably in the top 3. And I think the first one they're looking at might be the most difficult. So it might be the trickiest one to get done. Say doesn't seem likely. So his contract ends at 2028. So I think this one that his contract ends in 2 years' time, which I think that is true. But with the too many one, the situation is that if he doesn't extend the contract with Madrid, then next year he goes into the last year and his price drops massively. So I think the 2 years in his contract is about the time you negotiate a new one. Otherwise, the value starts coming down. But apparently, Manchester United have actually been looking at too many for multiple years. There was something that was posted yesterday or the day before. I can't remember which it was, but there was a journalist posting articles saying that the too many situation is like years in the making, apparently. I don't know. But I don't think it's likely either. That's why we talked about it loads, but I don't think it's a likely deal. So Funchy says you've been following Alex Scott from when he was in the Championship, also won Championship Player of the Year that year as well. That Hayden Hackney is the same this year, isn't he? Isn't he Player of the Year? So how much would you pay for Alex Scott? If you've been watching Alex Scott, how much would you pay for him? Manchester United think 50, Bournemouth think 65. Is this going to be like a something like 50 plus 5? You can get the deal done. How much would you pay for Alex Scott? That's because for Alex Scott is the one where until a week ago, I don't think there was loads of talk about Alex Scott. He feels like someone that has for good performances. Like I would say, there's merit behind it. There's good reasons. I think Bournemouth have played very well, and they've been probably apart from Manchester United, they've been the form team in the Premier League since January, despite selling some menu. I think that's probably the key thing here is they sold some menu. They didn't drop off. They've actually improved, and everybody's looking at lots of their players thinking they've done really well. So you would pay 40 million considering Wolves' predicament. Yeah, my point was going to be other clubs would pay more, which is better. Big up to you as well, could see it. Um, Leeds might offer 50, but I think Manchester United can still offer less. Like we can still offer less and get the deal done because at the end of the day, it's still João Gomez that decides. We don't have to pay. If Leeds want to pay 50 million, let Leeds bid 50 million. If João Gomez says, I'm not going to Leeds, I'm going to go to Manchester United, then Wolves will be annoyed, but there's not much they can do. There's not they can't force João Gomez to join Leeds United. That no matter what, it's like Benjamin Sesko. Leipzig couldn't say we want to get like Sesko sold to Newcastle because Sesko was like, no, I'm not even going to speak to Eddie Howe. I'm going to Manchester United. So there is player power in this one, and no, yeah, morning was the better. So focused on Alex Scott last game against Leeds, dictated the midfield, great stamina and engine, not scared to do the defensive work, always available for the ball, high IQ, says Genghis. Yeah, Alex Scott is one that definitely so he can grab a goal as well. So I think Alex Scott would be a perfect fit. Yeah, there's a lot of positive for Alex Scott. We might have to look into this, and we might have to do like a stream where we look at Alex Scott because there's a lot of positivity. It might be one of these situations where, for the money, is he a better football player than Joe Gomez in people's opinions? Do you think he would be a better football player for United than Gomez, or would it be good if they got both of these players in? Like, would that be a decent option? So Belieber had an injury to deal with this season, which none of us knew until recently. No, the preseason didn't happen. So Solly, this has been my guess as well. I said I think minutes have been managed. I think he's going off on 60 minutes because minutes are being managed. That was what I thought as well. So I think we're on the same wavelength as this one. There's definitely things behind the scenes, isn't there? But say I think Scott would be a perfect fit to Debasis. 55 to 60 million for Alex Scott sounds about right, doesn't it? If they want 65, United want 50. Yeah, it's pretty much in the middle, isn't it? I think 55 plus five add-ons or something. It seems like appropriate price, doesn't it? It's not going to be out of control. So if we bid 50 million pounds for a player from a relegated club, then we're sending the wrong signal for how much we're willing to pay for some other midfield targets. It's not Yeah, it's a bit too much, isn't it, really, for a relegated player? That Leeds United are the team that are bidding 50 million. So what message are they sending out? I think they're sending out a message they want to get players in quickly because they're worried about every other club looking for midfield targets. Scott, on the other hand, Bournemouth are going to be potentially getting European football. I think United were thinking that they're trying to get the deal done for 50, which I don't think is going to happen. But I think that's probably a better. I'm going to set them on. I think it might be a better buy for Manchester United than João Gomez. And that's probably based a bit on recent form more than anything. But yeah, I agree. I think we'll get more out of Sesko next season, 100%. So Gomez, Scott, Belieber seems realistic. Yeah, actually, in terms of that, what's bizarre actually, when you mention those three players, they're realistic targets. They could realistically actually be done before the World Cup, couldn't they? Like Gomez could be done quite rapidly. Alex Scott could be done quite rapidly. Solly says we drew at Bournemouth, they beat Liverpool, they beat Arsenal, didn't they? They beat Arsenal away. And so DM is the engine, Scott is that. Yeah, no, I haven't seen anything. I haven't heard anything negative about about him. Cody says I would take Gomez over Scott. Over Scott, it's a no-brainer. Okay, that's an interesting one. Should I do it? Right. I've got a poll running that was in the comments, and it was about Joe Gomez and 50 million. And I think most people were quite positive about that, how much they pay. So should United pay 50 for Gomez? 68% of people said yes, but most people are always positive about transfers. So here's a difficult one for you. So best first signing. We looked at Gleba yesterday. So best first signing, you got Gomez and you've got Alex Scott. So best first signing for Manchester United, Gomez or Scott. That's one to consider. What people are thinking. Is there an early kickoff today? Because I'm trying to think about stream times. I might try and do something at one possibly, but it depends on like games, or maybe 2 o'clock might be a good time just before that. But in terms of these deals, you don't need to necessarily spend big money either. So we could try 45 million. Yeah, we could look at a cheaper deal for Joe Gomez as well. But if we think we can get both of them, it might be a good deal. Good deal. Cheers, Clive. Funchy says Alex Scott is a £50 million player. That's what Man United value. That's what Man United are valuing him at. So, say, can we test the water? 44 for Gomez. That's the saying Scott first. So, if you got a view on this one, say £45 million bid for a 22-year-old English midfielder is a better signal. Say, young tax, English tax, Premier League tax. I thought we're prepared to pay the summer for midfielders. Yet, if we can get Alex Scott done for a sensible price, I think it's a really good signing. But it does come down to price, doesn't it? It's difficult to predict like what people think is going to be the best price. But I would say that like 45 million, I don't think they're going to get a deal done for that sort of price. I'm guessing 50 plus add-ons maybe would be that. But if Bournemouth say they value him at 65, they valued Semenyo higher than 70 to 65, didn't they? So I don't think he's going to cost as much as Semenyo did. There's going to be some issues. You're worried by Scott's injury history. Isn't it something that is overcome? Then sort of surely thorough medical will be something that you pick up on that. I'm going to saying that the difference could be Gomez's passing range not as good as Scott's, in your opinion. It is quite difficult, isn't it? I suppose if you're looking at age-wise as well, then I think Alex Scott is a little bit younger than Gomez, so potentially that's a factor as well. And Funchy says this is a big shout. Really say I feel Alex Scott in a very good environment. will produce a higher ceiling than Anderson, then yeah, that's a big shout. Certainly, you're probably getting a player that's maybe been on the radar less. Maybe United are actually thinking that in terms of, yeah, because Anderson's been on the radar for a while, his price has just got up and up and up, hasn't it? So maybe we're looking at a situation where Anderson's actually been a little bit too expensive, a little bit too much. And what do people think then? We've got on the stream. Do people think want to go a little bit longer and just if you do, we can go for a little bit longer and answer some questions. But also, if you're in the Discord, you can post information. We will try and do this. I'll try and do something later on this afternoon, but I'll try and dodge the games as well. But say Alex Scott, Junior Krupi, you'd buy any of these. It's almost like what we need to like get. I think in terms of like Brighton and in terms of Brentford and Bournemouth as scouts, I think they've all done incredibly well. But I think at the moment, like last year, it was definitely there were some good players at Brentford that were being sold. There are players at Bournemouth being sold. I think at the moment, maybe Brighton have dropped down a little bit. There's not lots of other players that I'd take Van Hecker. I'd take probably take Belieber at the right price. But Bournemouth are kind of on the map again, aren't they? As a team that I think maybe it's also Ariola's got good results. So I think yeah, Junior Krupa is one that people are talking about recently. Scored a nice goal recently as well. Say you like Gomez, but you prioritize Belieber and Scott. So yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult. That's why I put a poll in the comments just to see what people think. So at the moment, wow, this is actually quite interesting because if I do a vote and I've got a player on the screen and we're talking about a player like Gomez, usually that player wins. At the moment, Alex Scott is completely dominating the poll, 82%. So that's an interesting snapshot that I've done probably with like the last channel as well. I probably did for most transfers have a poll, and if the player's been talked about and I've got the player on the screen and the thumbnails about the player, that player almost always wins the vote. So um, there's a massive switch in terms of like people wanting Alex Scott. It's really interesting. I think Krupi is like one of these that like a backup striker we kind of need as well. And I don't know how much he would cost, but I'm guessing with this like are we going to see Bournemouth actually raided again for Alex? Is it going to be like Alex Scott gone? Is it going to be? Let's just look at the Alex Scott situation again. Is it going to be Alex Scott on his way? Is it going to be Junior Krupi on his way? Senesi gone? It's going to be and Ariola's going to go. It's a big rebuild. I know Bournemouth are well organised, but it's going to be a big rebuild for them as well. They're going to take a big hit this summer transfers, aren't they? They'll get decent money in. They got the Semenyo money, so they got money to spend. But you know, they got to get, I suppose, lucky and actually get some good signings in again. It's not the best situation. I think Areola pretty much got the best possible performances out of the team so far this season, and it's probably a shout for like one of the better coaches out there at the moment. And I hope that this story that I talked about this yesterday or the day before, I hope this actually happens and we see something like United go for like a £50 million bid. I think at the moment Bournemouth might be in contention for Champions League football. No, not Champions League football, in contention for Europa League football. So maybe there's clubs that are actually hanging on a little bit and then they'll start putting offers in as and when. Like with the João Gomez situation, Wolves are already relegated, so it's not a problem. But I think the Anderson and the situation with Alex Scott, I think deals will be happening as and when things are wrapped up. And with Forest, they still got Europe, haven't they? You got a feeling that Villa lose today, Liverpool win to bring all three clubs onto 58 points. Yeah, that would be. Oh, is there a chance that I think Liverpool have got a bit more momentum now, but I don't know. I don't think there's a chance that we need to keep just ticking points on getting points on the board, don't we? So anything's going to be good for us. Hopefully a win, but you never know what's going to happen. Hopefully we can get a win. But I think the situation might be that we've still got probably to watch out for Brighton. I hope Brighton start dropping points soon, and then it'll be different. I thought last night might be a close game, and I was very wrong. So I don't know. Um, so another top player, Mark's saying top player Anderson joins City. Then I suppose with City, that is he going to even actually start? You never know with this one, but I do think that Yeah, United need to be. It's almost like we need to go in earlier, don't we? We need to get the players that, if we want to get Anderson, we need to get Anderson earlier. That he would be cheaper, but also it's before he's on the radar of like teams like City. But we talked about him a year ago. We could have tried to get him then, and maybe like I don't think probably Newcastle wouldn't have sold him to us when they sold him to Newcastle because we're still a top four team then at that point. Yeah, it's gonna be difficult, isn't it? The Liverpool game is like almost like must like don't lose that game, and just try and get over the line. Hopefully, the Liverpool game could be a game where it's just that secures Champions League football. So there's a lot to play for in that game. It will be a bit like a cup final, to use a cliche, but a bit like that one. Well, Liverpool at home to Palace. Yeah, going into the Liverpool game with something to play for will be a refreshing change, won't it? Because normally there's not much at stake, and it's like one for the fans. So that'll be good. The fact that the Liverpool game could well be a game where Bruno Fernandes tries to equal or beat the assist record in the Premier League as well, and it could be the game that secures us Champions League football. So I mean, Liverpool's still obviously fighting for that as well, but United seem to have a bit of momentum. So it will be a great game. I mean, it's always a game to look out for, but maybe it's got a bit of added tension this time. Maybe that's something to look forward to. So at the moment, Alex Scott on 70%. Yeah, definitely. Says Scott British hype gets more votes, says Cody. I don't know. I don't think necessarily people are always. I don't think people watching the comments are necessarily 100% from England either. I think this. I think this is definitely a case of probably João Gomes plays for Wolves, Alex Scott plays for Bournemouth. I think the team's performance as well will be a factor. There's no doubt Joe Gomez has actually done okay recently, but it's tricky, isn't it, to see? So, say sixth place. You don't think sixth place can catch any of the top five teams anymore? I say guaranteed for top five. It's possible, isn't it? That it is down to Brighton, is it? Brighton have a good record though, so hopefully. And Wizard Bet says of all midfield players we've been linked to this week, apart from Anderson and Tonali, if you're able to secure one of those players, who would it be? That's a good question. Who would it be for you if you could pick one of those players? I think to say from what I've seen in the chat, I think I was surprised by how much positivity there was towards Tchouaméni. I think a lot of people saw Tchouaméni as being the most experienced option we could go for. And if Tchouaméni's not got any injury issues, I think he's got to be a shout. I think it's got to be the one for one kind of Casemiro experienced replacement, but also extremely good defensively, something that protect our back four. Have like if you have like too many and you've got say you've got Yoro behind and you've got Aiden Heaven behind, I think he's providing the experience you need. So I think that's a good factor. I think that's a good one, but again, it depends on the circumstances. And Cody says Hugo João Gomez, you think he's really underrated, saying say Belieber was one season wonder. But Scott, I don't know what injury issues he had, but he has not missed a game this season. So I'd say too many. Say he's not played more than 30 games a season for Madrid. Then I think he's played. I'm saying too many played 44 games last season. I think he played 50 the season before. But they're also playing a lot of games in the Champions League. So in terms of La Liga, how many games is it? Is it like 36, 38? Then he's not playing every single game, but they do have a big squad. So Real Madrid do rest players for Champions League games as well. So there is that sometimes they do rotate quite heavily before big Champions League games towards the end of the season. So and particularly that there are some games for Real Madrid and Barcelona, they do get some games that are a bit easier. But no, he's definitely a player that, according to Real Madrid, they want to keep him. So I think he'd be. I would probably be thinking he might be the one player if you could pick one. That's what I was thinking. He might be the one player. Big up Jarvis in the chat. Say, what's the latest? You've just woken up. So the latest that I've seen, Jarvis, is that we know our friend's Ben Jacobs, and he was talking about Atletico Madrid wanting to get João Gomez. So according to a couple of journalists this morning, the most recent thing regarding João Gomez is Leeds United, of all teams, are apparently going to be trying to maybe break their club record and offer 50 million for Gomez. That's the angle we're looking at to start with. And then we're having a bit of a debate about Alex Scott and Gomez as best possible signing, but as a first option. But now the Gomez one is one where I like the idea at 35, 40 million. I think 50 million, I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of options out there. I'm not really completely tied to one player either. I think we can get three good options, and there's probably be about 10 combinations that would actually be would work for me as well. So too many has been rotated, has had some injury issues as well. Um, I don't know if there are injury concerns, I would be apprehensive about this as a, a big money acquisition. The price would be moderate for the experience, like 70 million, but the wage would be very expensive. But that's what you get. If you're going to buy a Real Madrid player, you're going to have to pay a big salary because they're already on a big salary. So they're not going to take a pay cut to join Manchester United, and he's going to want something similar to that. He will be very expensive, but that's what you look at in terms of if you think he's worth it, you have to pay that sort of money. And so you like the idea of Carlos Baliba, Tonali, and too many, which that's probably going to be near the top of budgets, isn't it? You're looking at what 70, what's Tonali going to cost? Baliba might be 60, 100. You're probably paying over 200 to get those two players in, but that would be that would be a statement window, wouldn't it? Tonali, Baliba, too many. That would be compared with like that. If you think about it, those players will be replacing Casemiro, Agate, and Toby Collier, and then you can't argue that's not a big upgrade on that one. Having like Tonali or Agate is literally like the opposite end of the spectrum. And say 50, 38, 50. Well, these are the games too many's played, and say, yeah, I had a look at this as well. He's played a lot of football. We're talking like a couple hundred games over the last couple over 4 years. So it's a lot of football. But Real Madrid have got Bellingham, Camavinga, um, all these other players I've got that forget. But it's not like Real Madrid are down to their bare bones. Real Madrid have got elite players in every position and competition in every position. So if you don't play many games for Real Madrid, then there's reasons for it. But you played that many games for Real Madrid, then you're clearly in the first team. So I believe the season I'm seeing is very high, but no, I think Belieber. No, I'll say this: like it's a form argument, isn't it? Form or ability, and United look at the ability. I think as fans, we've been looking at the form. It's really difficult, really difficult. Um, so, Lucky's saying that he doesn't play because Madrid have just got too many stars. They Real Madrid have literally got uh, like a team. Like if you look at Real Madrid's bench, that bench walks into most Premier League teams, doesn't it? You could be looking at a game where like Bellingham sat on the bench, or too many sat on the bench, or Camavinga sat on the bench, or I mean Mbappe won't be sat on the bench. Vinicius Junior probably won't be, but Rodrigo. You have all these players that are potentially not always first team players, or they do sit out some games. But the thing is, if Real Madrid are going to play Paris Saint-Germain, if Real Madrid are going to be playing Arsenal or Liverpool, they're going to rest these players because they focus on the Champions League a lot of the time. So in La Liga, in a weird way, that a lot of the time La Liga doesn't seem to be Real Madrid's priority. The priority seems to be the Champions League, and they rest players in the Champions in La Liga. They still win games because they've got extremely good squad, and then they save these players for big European nights. So Real Madrid have done this for years. Like Gareth Bale I can remember memorable performances of Gareth Bale winning the Champions League, but he also didn't play a lot of games in La Liga. But Gareth Bale was on the bench to come off the bench and win the final against Liverpool. That's Real Madrid. Like Real Madrid have players on the bench that would walk into most Premier League teams. That's the difference. And when we're talking about Gomez or Alex Scott or other players, if we think they're too expensive for the bench, then that's kind of the level we need to aim at. Our bench needs to actually be very good players. Like we had a bench, so say 2 decades ago, Manchester United used to have a bench that had players like that could have like maybe Beckham's on the bench. Maybe you had trying to think who. I mean, I went to Old Trafford and Ronaldo was on the bench for one game, and he came on at half time because we were drawing the game. But that's the difference as well. Alex Ferguson did make substitutions a bit earlier, but you could be having a situation where potentially Manchester United had Teddy Sheringham, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, or Dwight Yorke-Randy Cole. Two of those players would be on the bench. So the fact that they're going to be expensive and people are saying, will he be in the first team? I think our bench needs to be probably 50, 60 million pound players eventually to compete with Man City and to compete with Arsenal and Liverpool. Our bench needs to be actually expensive players. It's going to take that. Like we're not going to be able to do that in one season. That's what I'm thinking. That you got to work towards improving the first team. But if we bought Alex Scott and we bought say Belieber and or we bought Tonali, then we're going to have two very good players on the bench that can play midfield. And maybe we also have a credible backup striker option on the bench. Maybe we also have Amad Diallo or Cunha or Dorgu on the bench. We could have like five good players on the bench that are effectively first team players as well in some matches. That's what you need. You need to have 11 on the pitch, at least five, six players on the bench that can come on and change the game. And I don't mean change the game for the worse when we bring on Agate. I mean change the game for the better by bringing on top quality players. I mean, we're going to have so much football. We need like say, Genghis is saying we need five top quality midfielders to rotate. I think we need like we've only got Manu at the moment. Bruno Fernandes is going to be playing further forward. I think we need three more, and then you could look at academy to maybe get some experience, maybe make up some of the numbers in some of the games. But you need to have at least two players for each position. I think that's a minimum requirement. So, I mean, I've usually got quite a good memory, but there's so many different people posting so many different options of what players I'd like to see. I have no idea of remembering everybody's options, but I think most people are of the mindset that we're going to go for three, and the price is going to be between 150 and 200. I think that's the one thing that we probably agree on, that we think that's most likely, or that should happen as a way of actually building the squad in terms of midfield first. Solly said you like the idea of Manu, Alex Scott, Angela Stiller, Carlos Baliba, too many. That's signing four midfield players. That would be great options, wouldn't it? But I think you'd probably have to take one of those options out there. That if you're going to get too many, and Angela Stiller, Alex Scott, or Baliba, maybe the option, maybe it's Alex Scott or Baliba would be potentially there. It depends if you want to go more defensive, more attacking, I suppose, than some of those players you're looking at. So Oman says one of the ways to achieve this is to buy players that become one of the starting 11 and say not just squad players. That's what I think United are doing. I think United are actually looking at Solly says go and get them. We've got sales coming in. So uh, what we'll do is though, after the transfer window, we'll do a stream where we'll do like an evaluation of the transfer window. So once we've got all the deals done and the transfer window is closed, then I know people are thinking we might be disappointed, or people are thinking, right, can we address all the issues? Then we can have a conversation where we go, right, was it good? Was it a good transfer window? So if I said like was last year's transfer window good? Like the players we brought in were good, but we didn't get a midfielder. So I think it was good, but we could have done better. I think at the moment that I'm expecting that we need to have a good transfer window this season as a minimum, don't we? We need at least I think we need 5 to 6 players minimum to come in. I don't mind if there's that on top of that a couple of options that are going to be maybe younger signings or signings that go through the academy or get loaned. But we need to at least get, I think, a few people that can walk into the first team and a few people that are certainly going to be better than players we've had on the bench last season. So definitely there. I mean, there's a lot of money coming in from player sales, so don't be too negative about where the money's coming from. There's money coming in, and there's a lot of players that are going to be sold this season. This is probably going to be, if you probably the most. What's the most money we've ever brought in a window to from players sold? I mean, have we ever brought in more money than Cristiano Ronaldo? He was 80 million. Have we ever brought in more money in a transfer window? I think if you look at Rasmus Højlund and you look at, I think Nana Trabzonspor want him, Rasmus Højlund, Marcus Rashford potentially another move on the cards if Barcelona doesn't happen. Agate, Xerxes, who else is actually earmarked to go? I think that's probably it in terms of sales. But this is going to be the most we've ever sold, I think, in terms of window. So it should be over 100, shouldn't it? If you get 30 for Agate or 35 for Agate, same for Xerxes, that could be like 65, 70, couldn't it? And with another 38 for Rasmus, it should be achievable to get 110, 120 million. And if Rashford goes as well, it's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot of money coming in. And you save a lot on wages, but Casemiro, you might give that money to many, and the money from Rashford, maybe that goes to a Diamonde or actually, but Rashford's money probably goes to two players. So yeah, I think Casemiro and too many are roughly would be sort of similar, but I think too many might be on slightly would be on a bit less as well. So yeah, Tonali's waned a bit. Like Tonali, I think with Tonali, United are actually looking and thinking. Maybe what they're doing at the moment is it seems that if you look at all the targets, it looks like Manchester United are being a bit more proactive with cheaper targets, which could be tactical, could just be the more achievable, could be that it's just a way of getting something done quite quickly. I think if United are looking at, I think they want Tonali, we might be in a better negotiation position if we bought Alex Scott and Believer or Alex Scott and Stiller or Gomez or somebody else first. Then it might be a different conversation because you could go to and say, look, we like Tonali, we don't, but we think 100 million is too much, and then maybe we can make an offer. We might be the only club actually making an offer for Tonali. I think the other links. Has anybody seen any other club linked to Tonali? I saw that there was potential interest from Italian clubs, but I don't think the price is going to be. I don't think it's going to be achievable for an Italian club to pay the sort of money that Newcastle want. I think it's going to be 70 million minimum. They want 100. I think United would pay. I think that United would pay close to what they wanted, but they want to try and get the price down. But I think if United bought a couple of cheaper options first, I think that would strengthen our negotiation position and say Newcastle. Do Newcastle want Xerxes? I think Xerxes, if I remember correctly, I think it was definitely it might be Napoli, but I think Juventus tried to buy him. Like Juventus wanted to buy him last over a year ago. So I think there's definitely we could sell Xerxes for maybe that sort of money. It could be that sort of price. I say we could be pushing cheaper players to get Newcastle to lower their price. So yeah, he can't go back to Italy, can he? Because I know that if the player wants to go, you can kind of engineer a move. But Tonali's under a 5-year contract, so he's not going to be going somewhere cheap. Newcastle want to cash in. Like Newcastle, there's no point in Newcastle selling Tonali for a smaller price because they need to actually get the money to try and do some business. So they need to sell one top player. If Gordon leaves it might be difficult. That's the only thing I can think of. If Gordon leaves, Newcastle might not need to sell any other players, and they might want to try and keep them. So the Tonali thing could be that he might be at a price Manchester United think is not reasonable. So it's pretty difficult. How about how does Xerxes get 94? Like Xerxes is lucky to get 94 touches in a season. How did he get a card that high? Um, So, so I think with this one, with this one, I think with this, like I know with Genghis saying that's a specific one. I think with some of these deals, I think a lot of the prices get quoted in euros in Europe when you translate them. So I think £40 million is probably about 34.3 million. So I think with this one as well, Rasmus at 44 million euros. And I think when you look at Angela Stiller, I think Angela Stiller was quoted at 50 to 60 million euros, roughly that. So when you look at it in pounds, it was like 42 to 50 million or something like that. So yeah, it is a different situation, isn't it? That the prices keep being quoted like ridiculous. I think if we're talking about in pounds, I think Newcastle United, they might see Tonali as being a player they can extract £100 million for from that player, but from a club. But I don't think Manchester United can afford to do that sort of deal and get everything else done. And I think what we're saying is we can uh, we can go to Newcastle and say we just bought Alex Scott or we just bought Belieber, and we don't need to actually get that one. You're saying Belieber, Scott, Gomez, Gordon is a dream transfer recruit. So you think Tony's gambling history affects him? I'm a bit 50. Like, do you think Gordon would be a good transfer? I'm not sure about Gordon. I think Gordon, for me, has I think he's got the sort of potential, like say, it feels like he's got the problem that he's pushing to leave the club. I don't think I really like that one. So I'm not sure about that one. I think it's a not a bad option for certain clubs, and was he being pushed towards? I think Gordon wants to go to Liverpool, so because he wants to do that, I would probably not definitely rule him out. I think he might be unlikely regarding this one. I was saying, I bet Quenda regrets joining Chelsea now. I mean, I've kind of lost track with Quenda, but Quenda was like signed for Chelsea. When was this? This was like was this last January? But when was it agreed, or was it last summer? I think he had like an 18-month loan after that. But yeah, he's under contract for a huge amount of time. Could be massive money bid, but yeah, I'm wondering whether like do you think Delap regrets going to Chelsea? Do you think Garnacho regrets going to Chelsea? I think there's a few players that are looking at Chelsea as actually do we want to go there and sign a contract for 7, 8 years? I don't think they want to do that anymore. So I think this might be the year that Chelsea's business model is definitely going to have a problem. To get back into the Champions League, Chelsea are going to have to spend serious money. And I don't think I don't think their model allows for that sort of deals. I don't think financially they can. They bought loads and loads of players that are a certain age. They probably need to sell those for profit, but I don't think they're actually good enough to sell for profit at the moment. So I think the wheels might be falling off Chelsea, which is great because I don't like Chelsea, but I think it's also good that the model they're doing where they buy players and then loan them out for over a year has been like damaging to football. So Quenda could have gone somewhere else. We could have seen him play, but it just got loaned out, and then it's not a great deal, is it for him? But no, Anthony Gordon, I'm not so keen. So it's previously stated that Gomez wants Liverpool, but we've seen no links. I don't think we've seen any links to that one either. It's got Gordon. I think Gordon has been. I think he's. I think with Gordon, like forget where he's from. I think when I watched him play for Everton, I think he's got some ability, but I didn't really think he was going to suddenly be one of the best players. Or so, I didn't think he was going to be a player I want to see at Manchester United. And at Newcastle, I still don't think he's a player I want to see at Manchester United at the moment. Like, I don't know. I don't think he's as good as he thinks he is. I think that he's obviously not terrible, but I don't think he's going to be. I don't know. I don't think he's the player I think we should sign. Yeah, he's still like relatively young. He still kick on and improve, but I'm not sure. For me, it wouldn't be my priority. I would be fixing midfield and think like Gordon is a deal I wouldn't be looking at trying to do. That's what I'd say. I'm not going to say he's terrible, but I think largely this season that Newcastle have been poor in the Premier League overall, and I don't know if that's down to like Gordon or down to like the other factors, but I think their attack got worse. Like Isak was obviously a key player, but having like Gordon with Elanga, Wissa, their attack's just not been very good in comparison. Yeah, I think I'm kind of of the same mind. Like if we announced we're signing Anthony Gordon, I would be a bit, I don't know, a bit 50-50 on it. I would just be thinking, I don't think he's been particularly professional the way he's handled the situation recently. So I'm not sure. And what happened to the news of Sadik of Sunderland and Mathis Mane of Wolves? Good question about that one. I think that, regarding Mane, give me like a second because I've got something I can show regarding this one. So let's have a look. There's an article that was put out by there's this. I saw this a couple of days ago. I think subsequently there's been another source as well. But in terms of looking at Mane of Wolves, apparently the valuation of about £30 million on the player. It might be that this is kind of similar to Delap money. I don't know how much Junior Krupi would cost, but it's kind of expected that in terms of like potential backup striker deals, this is one that's going to be on the potential. There is potential with this. The price would be about that. That's what people are thinking. So there is potential, but it depends how much Manchester United want to spend on a backup striker. Junior Krupi is like the other guy, so maybe it's a case of there's two options out there. I don't know which United would prefer, but two younger play, no, two very young players with a lot of promise ahead of them. Which one would you choose? I don't know. The Noah Siddiqui one is also, I think I've seen something, but I don't have anything prepared to show on screen. I think he's definitely been talked about. The backup striker is something where Junior Krupi and and Mane seem to be the two names I've heard recently. That's quite recently, and the price is about. I don't know how much Krupi would cost, but maybe it's if Mane's 30, maybe that's kind of like the that's maybe that's the price for a striker that has one season in the Premier League. If you look at Delap last season, if you look at Krupi, you look at Mane, maybe that's the price. But again, you're buying on potential. It's difficult. The other option is going to be like last season, there was like links with Welbeck, there was links with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but it seems that United would be. Like, we've got Benjamin Sesko. Do you think we should go for a striker that's older, like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, or these are just examples, but a striker that's older that would be maybe on a free, that's going to be experienced, but you see it as a short-term option, or do you go for an up-and-coming youngster that potentially is going to be Sesko's replacement in the future? That's what you've got to look at. So it is difficult. Big up to you, Jim. Appreciate that. But we're going to wrap up in a second. I just thought I'd ask that question. What would you go for as a backup striker? Would you go for a young, up and coming 19, 20-year-old, or would you go for an experienced striker? Or are Manchester United actually looking at a left winger they think can play backup striker? That's kind of also what I'm thinking. I think we go for a backup striker that could be also. No, I think we go for a left winger that maybe play backup striker. That's what I'm saying. Almost says, I don't feel like we need a backup striker. We need someone more experienced than Sesko. Same with Mainu. So you want two centre midfielders that forces Mainu to the bench. I mean, with this one, like forcing him to the bench, I think you need what I'd say. I'd phrase it slightly different and say, get a midfield player in that's genuine competition to Mainu and give them an opportunity to not battle it out because obviously you want competition for places, but you want to have some different players there as well. That Mainu might well be the best option for some games, but other midfielders might be the best option for other games. But I think with Benjamin Sesko, it felt like with Rasmus Højlund, it felt like we needed a more experienced striker at the club years ago. And this season, sometimes Sesko's been on the bench, and we played Mbuemo there. It would be good to have actually had a proper striker there instead of actually trying Cunha or trying Mbuemo there, which isn't ideal. Or trying to play a false nine. I think it's much more sensible to go for a striker. I think I don't mind your view actually in terms of that one. My guess is going to be that what we want to happen isn't necessarily how Manchester United are going to see things. I think we might see a younger striker. So I think we might end up with, like, say, at some point in the future, Cheetah will be talked about. But I think Mane, Junior Krupi could be could be solid options. I think we might end up upsetting Bournemouth fans with our approach at the moment because it looks like we might be looking at Alex Scott, potentially looking at Senesi, potentially looking at maybe Creepy as well. So there's three players from there's three players at least from Bournemouth on the books or on the radar, isn't there? So I think we could have sold Hoyland to Newcastle plus 45 million for Tonali potentially. Newcastle do have a very effective way of setting up goals for strikers, don't they, with Isak? I think that might have been it could have been like I don't think we could have got say plus 45 for Tonali. I'm just trying to think. Maybe, maybe there could be that one. So give Mainu a contract, then stick him on the bench. I think with this one, I think with Mainu, Mainu's there to fight for his position, isn't he? So I think if we get better quality players in midfield, we can have a conversation about Mainu in a year's time. But I think that kind of protects the situation, and I think that's where United are looking at. So I think, has anyone got any final questions before we wrap up? I'm just going to end the poll so we can see what people are thinking. At the moment, though, I think Alex Scott is up there with like recent new favourite for Man United fans on this channel. So Alex Scott currently got say 62% of the vote, 38% for Gomez. Yeah, it's not a landslide, but I think it shows that Alex Scott is suddenly up there with people's opinions of like being a good option. So that was quite interesting. Yesterday I did a poll with Belieber versus Alex Scott, and Belieber did win. So Belieber was the favourite, then Alex Scott, then Gomez at the moment. So that's kind of where we are with this one. A big up, Bilal. I'm about to wrap up, but if you've got any thoughts on the situation regarding potentially Leeds offering, or Leeds are going to offer 50 million for Joao Gomez, is the lead story. If that happens, should Man United make some sort of offer? Should Manchester United just go for Alex Scott? Should they just go for Belieber? They're all good options, aren't they? Yeah, and we can argue about whether they've had a bad season, injury issues, or consistency, but they're all good players. I think Manu needs I think Manu needs development and competition. I think competition, rotation. So that's what I was saying. I would kind of phrase it differently. I would say Manu needs like competition, that you need to be regularly in the team in terms of like Manu starts one week, someone else starts midweek, someone else starts the next. You got competition, rotation, etc. I think a decent amount of starts, but you're not forced to play every single game. Uh, a bit of squad rotation and options is absolutely key, isn't it? But no, I think it's just the phrasing that people. I think most people think we just need to get more and more, more and more kind of options in midfield. Then it's not a problem. But if anyone's got like some final questions, because I say I will be hoping to be live. Maybe like 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock might be something. I'll see what happens. If there isn't much news, then maybe there won't be anything. But I'll see what news is trending. If there is like some updates, so I don't want to stream if there's literally nothing new. But if there's some updates, we will cover something. But no, I think he's a good player. But anyway, guys, I'm going to call it a day. Thank you for watching. If you're new to the channel, let me just post something in the chat as well with like some social links. I don't know if it's there, but if people are watching, if you just tuned in, then I'll make sure that you can see the comments. If you want to rewatch the stream, the comments will pop up so you can see people's views, and we had quite an interesting debate. So let's copy this one. So this is social links. So if you want to be in the Facebook group that Coyote admins, if you want to be in the Discord group where we post things as well, social links there. I'm on Twitter, but I'm not massively proactive on that one. But again, and Instagram as well, I'm not particularly active on that. But if people want to message or suggest things in the Discord, that would be good. Now, cheers, Solly. I appreciate that. And please don't forget to like. Please don't forget to share the video as well. And mutual, if you have some football friends that enjoy watching content on YouTube, then please get involved. We will be doing a big calling show on Sunday, so that's planned. We will have a Brentford fan on, but we'll be doing a big calling show for that one, so that should be fun. And if people have got some comments or questions, please do comment after the video finishes, after the live stream finishes, and we'll be able to get your views, get your opinions on that one as well. So, um, last couple of comments. Yeah, this club have a puzzle to solve in midfield. There's a lot of pieces available. There's a lot of midfield players available. I think based on like the 10 players we talked about at least today, I think Manchester United would have a pretty difficult job to sign three of them and end up having a midfield that's not very good. I think it's almost going to be once we've actually looked at some of these options, it'd be very, very difficult to actually sign three of these players and end up with a window where people think is not good. There's just too many good options out there at the moment, and I think we're looking in the right position, right place for a while. No, but big up to people watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for getting involved, and we will see you guys. Hopefully, if there's going to be something like live this afternoon, maybe what 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. Actually, it's 11:30 now, isn't it? So maybe 2 p.m. or onwards. These streams will be getting shorter as we like build back up as well. So thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting this channel, and we will see you live in the next one.